Hey, you're listening to the Give Back Podcast, a weekly podcast hosted by Give Something Back coaches, staff, alumni, and current students. Our mission is to support students from all backgrounds through the college journey. This season, we're focused on helping you thrive during your first semester at college, from your first day on campus all the way to winter break. Our 7th episode is called Financial Aid. We'll take you through everything you need to know about applying for financial aid for college, from important deadlines to different types of loans. As always, if you have any questions, give us a shout on Instagram, Facebook, or by email. Here are the time-coded sections for episode 7. Please feel free to jump around if you'd like, or you can listen all the way through. Enjoy!
Okay, so my name is Alexandra Wen, and I'm a first-year college student, and I just transferred here last year.
Thank you. I'm Lydia Matlock, and I work for Give Something Back, based out of Kansas, Missouri area, and I'm the Chief of Operations for Give Back.
Hello, my name is Arthur Horn. I currently at Rowan College of South Jersey, where I do a variety of things. One is as a professor, and then I also do a lot of academic advising.
My name's Kelsey Novak. I'm the program director for Give Something Back out of our Illinois office.
Great. Thank you so much. So I actually want to start with you. So when you applied for school, did you fill out your FAFSA? How did that work for you to kind of get that first financial aid package?
So my case is more special than
Yes.
others because I graduated high school in Taiwan, and before I transferred here, I have studied at a Taiwanese college for a year. So when I came here last year and trying to apply for financial aid, they required me to they want my diploma and transcripts
Right.
to be evaluated by an third like another organization. So I have to prepare like the English versions of the documents,
Yes.
and I have to send them to the organization.
Did you have to take the TOEFL?
Oh no.
No?
Because I was born here
Got it.
but grew up in Taiwan. So
Okay.
yeah. So I didn't have to take the tests. But like the process of preparing those documents requires some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you will need to start early.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think everyone should start early on financial aid. Yeah.
But I was a bit late. So I got my package later than others. Yeah.
But you still got it.
Oh yeah. But I hope I could like do it earlier
Yes.
if I knew.
So that would be your piece of advice then.
Yeah.
Start early. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's hard right now because of the new FAFSA that's come out and all of the difficulties that we've had through that. So, Kelsey, I know we just heard recently, well, several months ago now, and we hope that the new FAFSA will roll out this year. We're in December again, aren't we?
Yeah, it's pushed back to December 2024 as an open date for the 25-26 FAFSA. So any students planning on attending college in the next year, you'll be doing your FAFSA in December.
Right.
Instead of October as originally planned.
Right. And then in terms of deadlines for that FAFSA and for state-based grant funding, like I know in the East Coast they call it EOF or EOP. In the Midwest it's more state-based grant, so Kansas Comprehensive, the MAP grant in Illinois. Those are all across the board too in terms of due dates and things.
Yeah, if you go onto FAFSA's website, you can actually pull up, they have all the state listed deadlines. So if you're in California, you are in Washington State, you're in, Alaska or Hawaii, like all of that information is posted. So you can get that state information. Your high schools would be able to find it for you as well, but it would just be reaching out to like a guidance counselor, doing some self-search as well for when those deadlines are, because they vary across the board.
Call your Give Back student coach.
Call your Give Back student coach, yep.
And they can definitely help you with that. We found a couple other interesting statistics, I would say, that in 2021, 2022, so a couple of years ago, only 70% of families submitted the FAFSA. And so really only 85% of then those 70, you know what I mean? Of those 70% of students received aid. So if those other 30% of families submitted, those numbers could be drastically
And
different.
we'd be at 97, 95.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly. Yeah.
We'd be right.
I just think, again, it's kind of like in high school, the free and reduced student lunch application. If you just assume you're not eligible, you could be missing out on things.
Well, you said that statistic was 2021?
Yes.
So that would have been COVID,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So statistically across the nation, kids entering into college was down.
Yes.
So that would kind of relate
Makes
with
sense.
that.
Right.
And then I think it went up a little bit, but that would make sense for
And
that
I think
statistic.
high schools or states now are mandating, high schools help students to complete
Yeah.
FAFSA. But what do you think the barrier is in FAFSA completion? Why do you think only 70%? Do you think they just assume they're not needing aid, or do you think it's the difficulty of the process?
Process.
You do?
Yeah. Because it's a lot of paperwork, right? A lot of time. And so when students fill out the FAFSA, it's really 3 entities you're looking at, right? And for most part, if you stay in state, it's 3 entities. 1 is the FAFSA, 2, the state,
Right.
and 3, the college. And everybody wants something similar or different, and you got to be on top of what to submit, when to submit, who, what's what. And then again, as we talked about in other episodes, here come the acronyms, right? Like,
Right.
what does that mean, right?
Yes.
So I think the process frustrates people, especially when we're talking about first generation students. You like, forget it. I'm not going to get aid. I'll wait till next year. But then life happens and next year never comes, or next
Right.
year is 7, 8 years down the road.
Exactly. And I think also for students who maybe don't have parents or guardians who are either supportive or
Yeah.
who are around for them, I think, again, it's just an overwhelming process to try to, to gain that independent student status. You need additional paperwork and documents, and sometimes that really is a barrier that's
Yes.
hard to overcome.
Well, and I think there's been a lot of news or a lot of information in the news lately, especially about FAFSA, federal student aid, because there's been, this is the biggest overhaul in probably 45 years that federal student aid has tried to cram into like 1 year.
Right.
And so I think people come into this with the understanding that it's going to be difficult and it's going to be challenging, because it's like, well, the news is reporting on it. My guidance counselor has talked about it. My friend down the street has talked about it.
scary.
It's scary. And so I think, that is also a little overwhelming too. But, when you actually get into it and do a FAFSA, the questions that are being generated and asked towards you are driven towards you. So questions you may answer are going to be different than what I
Right.
answer. So it's actually a lot easier than I think it's,
It's just overwhelming.
it's just an overwhelming process and overwhelming time.
Yeah. And
that-
you need help.
And I think the other thing is we don't talk about finance enough.
We don't.
So when we hear anything about IRS, we hear anything about FAFSA, we think money, and we like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Right. So I think going into it with a different perspective for most of us that attend college, this is our first big investment. Right. And
Yes.
depending on where you go, it can be an investment that it's a whole lot more money than where you live. Right.
Yeah.
So I think when we talk about this topic, we also should start looking at it and explaining to students of any age, this is your first big investment. What's going to be the return on your investment, right?
Right.
So when you're going into it, do I want to pay X amount of dollars here at the 4-year school, or can I do some of my work at the 2-year school where I can get a better bang for my financial aid in the beginning and then move towards the 4-year school? So I think the way we start looking at FAFSA financial aid is going to become important, especially with costs of a lot of colleges is going up. I just
It
heard
is.
a report, last month, back in July, that probably by the end of next year, a couple schools in the country will be $100,000 a year.
Right.
They're right
a
now
lot.
at 90.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
yeah.
I mean, a 4-year education, you're you're pushing that $500,000 mark, right? So
Yeah.
you don't want to take out more loans than you're ever going to be able to repay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you went to, Alex, when you went to TUNE's college, is it set up the same way? Do you have like tuition in the same way? Do you have funding through the government that helps you to go to college, or is that an American thing?
Yeah, I think there were scholarships you can apply for, and if you're from like a not that rich, your family is not that rich,
Sure.
there are funding you can apply, but you have to look for the resources.
Right. So it's kind of the same, like in terms of looking for those resources that are available.
Yeah, but I think it's not that much as financial aid here.
Okay. Okay. So were you surprised when you came to America to go to college with how expensive college was?
Yeah, because the tuition in Taiwan is not that pricey.
Right.
And if you go to like public college, it's even cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And many students, there are also loans that students
Right.
can,
Okay.
but it's, cheaper than here.
Right. And there's a lot of different types of colleges. Like we've touched on community college, right? And then there's public institutions, there's private institutions, and there's all pros and cons to each. But I think working with somebody that you know to really dive down into pros and cons of those different opportunities is important.
Absolutely, yes. Because again, going into college, we're looking for what's going to be our major, what's going to be our career path, right? And sometimes the cost of our college outpace with our career path
Absolutely.
becomes. So having that conversation, being able to have, if you're in a program like Give Back, you have those resources. But again, like in other episodes we talked about, you have to feel comfortable asking questions, reaching out, even if you don't know what the question is. Like you can just go and say, "I don't know what I need
Right.
to ask,
I need help."
but I need something."
Yeah.
So start right with that. Like I need something, and then let us help you find out what you may need. Right?
Well, you don't know it. You can't ask questions on what you don't know that you don't know,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a lot of pathways out there. There's technical programming. There's, all kinds of different schools to choose from. And I think so my background was all higher ed admissions. So I did that for about 10 years before I came to Give Back. And one of my rules of thumb was to never take out more loans than you would hope to make your first year of work, right? Yeah. So like, we'd go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to ONET, and look at, okay, what does a nurse make their first year, right? So if that number in your state is $50,000, you do not want to take more than $50,000 out in student loans for that career. You want to be able to repay that in that 10-year standard repayment, right? Before that interest really kicks up.
And I think another thing, when we talk about loans, we need to talk about the types of loans, right? So we have the federal, right? You get from the federal government. Then we have private loans, right? So
which can be predatory.
Well, yes. So going back to what you just mentioned, that, how much do I need to take out? So if you're taking out federal student loans, they have programs that can help you with repayment, right? You can go on forbearance. You can, go pay with the salary you make, cost-based type of repayment. But if you get a private loan, they want their money.
It's like a car note.
Yeah, they want their money. You sick, you can't work, you don't have a job, they don't care, right? So even the types of loan you take out becomes important, and it goes back to trying to manage life and what may happen in life. So even be careful with the loans you take out, what types of loans you
That's
take
an interest rate discussion. As we've talked about in previous, podcasts, you don't want to take out a private student loan with 20% interest rate.
No, you'll never pay it back.
You'll never pay it back. You'll be collecting so much interest, nothing's going to that principal amount. And so you want to talk to somebody, right? You want to really look at what your amortization schedule is, like a mortgage almost, right? Like, when is this going to be paid off? Is it a 25-year commitment? And do I want to do that for my career?
And like even with federal or private loans, you got the Parent Plus loan, right? So the law was changed a few years back, in which your parent's credit becomes important in if you can qualify for the Parent Plus loan. But let's say your parent does get the loan and assist you. If you get sick or unfortunately you pass away, federal government usually will work with the parent to either forgive the loan or, reduce costs, whatever. Private loans, you still got to pay,
Right.
regardless of the situation or the status of the student that originated the loan. So again, just having the knowledge of this could happen, we don't talk about enough.
When you went to learning about your financial aid package, did your financial advisor sit with you and discuss the different types of loans and grants you were eligible for?
Yeah.
They did. Oh, well, that's good. That's great because there's two types of federal student loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, right? So, Kelsey, do you want to talk about the difference in those?
Yeah, so the federal unsubsidized loan is a loan that you borrow from the Department of Education. So you file your FAFSA application, and regardless of income, you're going to qualify for that federal unsubsidized loan. And what it does is that loan is accruing interest while you're in school. So if you borrow that loan at, let's just say 5%, from the moment you borrow it, your freshman year of high school or college, that interest continues to accrue at 5% until you've paid it off in full, which will be at some point potentially 10 years down the road. It's through the Department of Ed, so it's backed by them, so you get all those same benefits. You get deferment options, forbearance options, income-based repayment, those types of things. The federal subsidized loan is a loan, again, same thing through the FAFSA application. You apply. That one does kind of vary based on financial need, so not every student may qualify for that. But what that is that interest is subsidized while you're in school. So it's not accumulating any interest. So it's 0% while you're in college, and then after you've graduated is when that interest starts at whatever the Department of Ed has that interest rate set at for that
Subsidized loans
year.
are special. That's
They
what
are.
I always say.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that S. Yes.
Yeah, and there are federal limits on the amount that you can borrow.
Absolutely,
So
right.
freshmen in college, you can borrow $3,500 in subsidized loan and $2,000 in unsubsidized loan, and then it bumps up to $4,500 in total, and then $5,500 for your junior and senior year.
Right.
So there are federal limits to kind of help with how much you're borrowing, but then you can supplement with those other types of loans if need be.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of people get into
Trouble.
is with those
Yeah.
other supplemental loans.
Right. The federal government wants to keep you relatively safe and your
Yeah.
payment relatively low.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's because they want you to repay it.
Yes.
And that's the scariest thing is you'll see these student loan agreements and private student loan packages, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, where that's such a heavy weight on you at 22, 24 years old to think about having to repay. So it's important to kind of make sure that what you're taking out is necessary for you to be successful.
Yeah, and I will say if you're a student working with Give Back or with a student coach, like you take any of those agreements that they're asking you to sign, and you either take it to your student coach, you take it to your parent, you take it to your guardian, and you say, I need help understanding what this is.
Right.
Because at 18, you probably haven't purchased your first car yet, so you probably don't have a credit card. So that's your first, like you said, your first financial deep dive, and you're signing something that you don't know what it's going to cost you in 5 to 10 years.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot of, things that you need to read and understand and know about with those loans that, sometimes I think we miss the fine print.
We do. And I think what's important too is that all students can apply for FAFSA. The majority of students can, right? But there's different statuses for students. So there's dependent and independent student statuses, and they make a big difference in what you're eligible for, right? And so what are some of those key differences in independent and dependent student statuses? How do you qualify?
So a dependent is typically a student who is under the age of 24. They have no children of their own. They have no other individuals that they're supporting. They're unmarried, and they're not a veteran or ever been in foster care or homelessness. Those are students who, when you apply for your FAFSA, you typically need to add in your parent information, whether your parent's married or divorced or remarried. Their information goes on the FAFSA. So you're applying not only with your own information and your own potential income, but you're also including your parents' income. So again, depending on circumstances, you may qualify for federal grants, state grants, or you may not.
Right.
Whereas with the independent student status, those are typically students who are over the age of 24. They may be married, may have children of their own, or they have a circumstance such as homelessness, foster care, ward of courts,
Yep.
Legal
guardianship.
Like those are students who are going to qualify on their own with their own income and their own, just their own information.
Right. Good to know. I think also, what role does the college have or the university have in financial aid? Like what you would receive?
This is really based on metrics from, your income, federal government guidelines. So one of the things is you mentioned independent. Like whatever you put on that FAFSA, you going to be responsible to bringing that information. So for example, I had a student who put parents was married, right? She lived with her father. He was here. They was in the States. Mother was in South America somewhere. So financial aid said, all right, we need her income too. And I'm like, all right, so what that look like? Like,
right.
We don't even know
where she is.
If the one, where she at, and two, does the paperwork look the same
right.
as what we have, for filing taxes, right? So those are some of the things that when you're doing a FAFSA, that can determine independence, parents separated, divorce. So that can become tricky, and I think students and families don't understand that that part too. Yeah.
Well, and there's nightmares associated with FAFSA, right? Like we've all seen those students who, kind of like your student who's had this situation where you're like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? Yeah. Because people want to help. Everyone wants to help you fill out the FAFSA. Not everyone is qualified to help you fill out the FAFSA, right? I mean, we had a student situation where this lovely organization wanted to help a student complete the FAFSA, but the student situation was pretty extreme, right? Father was in prison, mother was in Mexico. They put the father's prison address as the permanent address. Child was living in a different state. I mean, so it became this huge hullabaloo, and we had to get Mexican records of, and they were all in Spanish, right? Well, so the college is like, well, we can't read this. And I'm like, well, that's all I've got, right? I mean, that's what we have. So again, I think it's important when you're getting guidance on these things to really ensure that the person is familiar with the FAFSA, because it is. How was your first time completing the FAFSA? Was it easy or not so easy?
No, it's not easy.
Right.
Yeah, because everything is in English, but my parents' documents, they're all in Chinese.
Right.
Yeah, so I have to translate, and this semester when I was applying, they required my guardian, my dad, to create an account and put his personal information on the application, but he doesn't know much English, and we're not in the same country, so
right.
I have to FaceTime with him and teach him how to. Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. And he had to send me his passport. Yeah.
For you to be able to upload and sign and things like that. Right. Yeah.
To create an account for him.
Yeah. So while we're on this topic, we actually had a quick question from Athena in Texas. And she says that her parents are currently undocumented. Can she still complete the FAFSA?
Yes, as long as a student, if you're interested in going to college, as long as you are a legal citizen of the United States of America, or you have
a green card.
A green card, you can complete a FAFSA application. If your parents are not legal citizens, or your guardians are not, or they're undocumented, you can still apply. You just put their information in as zeros for when it asks for a social security number. And same thing with completing the FSA ID, to get your ID for your parent, or have your parent get their ID. Even though they don't have social security numbers, there's still a way to complete that process.
And have you heard from parents, or I'm sure there's a concern from parents, right, who are potentially undocumented with putting their personal information, saying that they're undocumented into a federal student, into a federal database. What would you say to those parents to help them overcome that concern?
I mean, that information does not get shared with other, it doesn't get shared with, IRS. It doesn't get shared with, any like immigration services or anything like that. So that information all stays in the FAFSA. So I understand the concern, but there should be no concern as far as that goes, because the information isn't shared with anyone else, any other federal services.
Now, at the federal level, right? But I'm going to say at the state level, that's where parents even get more, because depending on your state, right, you got to get information to the college.
Right.
So now, if you a state college, and I say, all right, I want to know who might be undocumented, if you want funding, that becomes a little bit, that's why some students, some parents hesitate.
Right.
But overall, it's safe, right? It's safe for you to input your information in for your student to, to go to college. But I think that's what parents worry about.
100%. I don't blame them for being worried, but I do want, for students who are listening to this podcast, for parents who potentially are listening, to know that it is safe for them to put their information in, and that in most cases they're going to have to in order to allow their student the opportunity to receive federal funding.
Yeah. And I will say, and I'll talk specifically from the state of Illinois because that's what I'm comfortable with, but for our state aid, anything that's transmitted between the state and the colleges is all based on student information.
Yeah.
Like there's no parental information that's shared. So anytime we would get reports or anything like that to be able to award state-based aid, it was strictly student-based.
And you worked in the financial aid office of an institution.
Yes.
So that is your knowledge.
Yes.
Right. At least in the state of Illinois, how that works.
Yep.
Which I think is important. And I just, again, want to kind of put some students' minds at rest that it is complicated, it is difficult, and with certain situations it may be more difficult, right? But it's worth it, and it's safe, and it does allow you the opportunity to potentially move forward with your education if that's important to you.
I will say too, like for first-time students or continuing students, if you have questions about your FAFSA or your parent has questions about your FAFSA, like they are there to help answer those questions.
Right.
Because I can tell you from a back-end side, if you submit a FAFSA and it's really screwed up, it takes a lot of time on the processing side to make those corrections and gather data. So the cleaner the data is when it comes in, the cleaner it is to get the information back out to the students. So if you are ever questioning about what should I do, what shouldn't I do, whose information should I put, like if you know you're going to a specific college, just pick up the phone and call the financial aid office and say, hey, listen, I either want a Zoom meeting or I'd like to talk to you about this. They will gladly help you through it.
It makes their lives a lot easier.
It truly does.
Right.
It truly does.
Well, what if you didn't do that? Let's say, so you just filled out the FAFSA on your own and you made a big mistake and it says you are not eligible for aid, right? How do you fix it? What do you do?
You would typically what will happen is if it's a fixable thing, the financial aid office would put in your student portal like, hey, Kelsey, I need you to fill out these documents, please. You fill them out, you sign them, you submit them, and typically the college can make those corrections on their own through the federal processor.
So schools do have the ability to either, like we call it C codes, right? Or we'll call it, whatever your school calls it, but they're going to verify your information.
Correct.
You go through what's called verification, which they say about 50% of youth will have to go through verification. So if you're pulled for that, that's not a concern. That's just part of the beast, right? Of federal financial aid. And you may have to provide documentation. But schools do have the ability to override or to make professional judgment decisions on student situations.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, like one thing that a financial aid officer could do or a financial aid counselor could do, if you walked in and said, listen, I live with my mom. It's me, my mom, and my two brothers. My mom was working. She's since lost her job and she's only on unemployment right now. So what's reported on the FAFSA is not actually what's happening in my...
Because what's reported on the FAFSA is prior year.
Yeah, it's 2 years past data.
2 years back tax, past taxes. So situations do drastically change in the matter of 2 years.
Yeah, so you can tell the financial aid officer that, and they'll go through and they'll say, okay, if things truly have changed, let's look at income right now. We can make these adjustments and we can report what's actually happening in the household currently. The other side of that is if let's say you filed as a dependent student because you're under the age of 24, you're not married, you don't have children, and something has happened in the household and you're like, listen, I no longer live there, the home is abusive, or there's drugs or alcohol.
I'm currently unhoused. Right.
There are situations where, again, you can talk with a financial aid counselor and they can make a dependency override depending upon the situation. It does need to be a documented situation, so they will probably ask for some information that might dig up some of the past, but you are going to have to provide some of that information to them.
So it kind of goes back to all of our previous episodes, right? Mm-hmm. You have to self-advocate. You have to speak up for yourself. You have to, unfortunately, sometimes it will be uncomfortable because you will have to share information that maybe you would like to hold close. But again, everyone on that campus is there to see you be successful. And so I think it's just really important that you are willing to share that in order to qualify for aid. That's really important for when you go back to school so that you don't have these private, somewhat predatory student loans at times, right, in order to move forward with.
And then I think also the FAFSA contact us.
Yes.
They good.
They are good.
So sometimes you might have to wait, but once you get them on the line, they help you with some of the processes. So don't be afraid to get on the phone, call them and say, I'm having trouble accessing the FAFSA, especially your FSA ID.
Yeah.
Please. That's the longest part of the FAFSA, right? Especially if you want to redo it and you lose your information. It takes 30 minutes to reset. Yeah, so like your FSA becomes important. It follows you until they change it. It's with you each year. So make sure when you do your FSA, you keep it, because that's really, to me, the longest part of the FAFSA.
It absolutely can be.
It can be.
And so I think there's obviously a lot more to your financial aid package besides loans and grants, and we'll move into that next. I think my last piece of advice is what the FAFSA stands for: free application for federal student aid. If you go to a website to fill out your FAFSA and they request money to complete your FAFSA, you are on the wrong site.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are on FAFSA.gov when you're completing that, because we have seen, again, people get online, say they're going to help you complete this FAFSA. You pay $40. Do not pay $40 to complete your FAFSA, right? If you need help, you contact Give Back, or you contact your federal student loans or federal student aid offices for that guidance.
I'm just going to put in a caret that it's FSA.gov is where you do your FAFSA.
FSA.gov.
FSA.gov.
Yes, we have to always ask Kelsey. So for the last few minutes of today, I really want to talk about scholarships, because that's another huge piece of going back to school, right? Or going to college, and in that financial aid package. So tell us about, did you apply for any scholarships when you went to college?
Yeah, I tried.
Yes.
I wrote some essays.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't think I got.
They're selective,
yeah.
right? Like you have to apply for them, you have to be selected.
Yeah,
right.
and your grades have to be good enough.
Right.
For some scholarships.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was fun, like, to write the essays. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, essays are usually a big piece of scholarship of receival, and then also your grades, or it could be certain circumstances or programs that you're interested in, or majors-based scholarshiping. So what would your advice be to students looking for scholarships for college?
One, start an essay. It can be just a form essay, because most essays is about you.
Right.
Right? Your experiences, your goals, your activities. So you can just do a general essay, find out what the topic is, and then fill in what they're asking for. Mm-hmm. And that saves a lot of time, one. And then two, it gives you a chance to do multiple scholarships, because you already have that template already set up. A lot of times people don't do the essay because it's like, I don't know what to write. It's the deadline. It's
cover letter for a job.
The second recommendation is, if you need a recommendation, don't send me an email the day before.
Agreed.
Right.
That is a pet peeve of mine as well. Yes.
Because now I'm up all night long
Right.
trying to get you
'Cause I'm gonna do it.
your
Yes.
recommendation to you by tomorrow morning, right? So the second thing is have a list of people that you can get recommendations from, and a caveat to that, ask them will they be a person that will give you a recommendation.
Right.
Some people might say no because they just don't have the time. So give them that chance to know, like, all right, yes, I will do it, but you're going to have to give me 48 hours in advance. Mm-hmm. Some people might give you that stipulation. So those two things, I think, up front. And then the last thing I say for our scholarships, institutions have a lot of scholarship money.
Yes.
Institutions have a lot of scholarship money that go semester to semester, year to year, because students don't apply for the scholarships because I don't feel like writing an essay. Mm-hmm. Again, have the template. Your major got scholarships, certain situations, like you mentioned, hobbies. So those are the three things I say, do the template, get your recommendation people together, and search the college website for those scholarships.
Absolutely. Those are good.
I would say to look outside, like think outside the box. So like go to like your churches, look in your local level too. So like a lot of city chambers will have scholarships. If there's Rotary clubs there, they have scholarships. Nonprofits may have some scholarships that you can apply for. Hospitals, legal firms, like anything like that, they're going to have money to provide. And, $250 may not seem like a ton of money, but that may cover a course fee. It may cover a textbook. Like that money adds up fast. Yeah. The other thing that I'll say that kind of goes with what you just talked about is, I think scholarships get pushed really heavily in high school seniors and like going into college, but don't stop there. Like your freshman year, you may get some scholarships, but like don't stop, like continue, because college increases every year. There's typically a tuition increase. There's typically a housing increase. Like look on those scholarship portals. I mean, do the 1-page essay that you have to write. It's typically going to be about lived experiences anyways.
Right, it's about you.
It's about you, and those scholarships will add up. And a lot of them may be stackable too, which means if you get $1,000 here, you could get another $1,000 here and another $1,000 there. You have $3,000. Right. So continue to apply throughout your academics, not just that first year.
Exactly. We do have a question from Charlie in Missouri. How do I sort through all these scholarships and know which ones I have the best chance of getting? Because there's a lot.
There's a lot.
And they're all over the place. Like I was driving through the Burger King drive-thru and they're like, put your change in for scholarships for, BK scholarships. I mean, everyone has them.
I mean, I would say some of the big ones that pop up, like you said, Burger King, McDonald's,
Taco Bell,
Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Discover.
HBO.
Those are national scholarships, or worldwide scholarships probably. So you have like a one in,
it's like a lottery.
Exactly. Yeah. You're better off probably winning the lottery. But those are really, really hard to go for because a lot of kids are applying. Mm-hmm. So again, scale it back, look more at your local level. Maybe if you have a grandparent that was ever in an industry, you can look with them. Some companies may give scholarships to kids who are going to college. Just look more at your local level and maybe your high school level versus those large.
But if you've already written the essay,
dump it in, submit it,
I mean, and that's your senior year of high school, right? Like that final semester, that summer before, and then don't stop there. Yeah. Just keep, because if you join Greek life, there may be opportunities.
But don't put your eggs in one basket for a $20,000
exactly.
scholarship.
And I also, what's your major, right?
Yes.
Because this is the secret. When you're a student, everything is a discount, right?
Yeah,
so let's just say I'm a business major, I'm a nursing major. Is there a local organization attached to a national organization, right?
Yep.
How much it costs to join? $10, $25? Join. Because one, that's on your resume, right? That you're part of that organization, and all of them have scholarships.
Yes.
And the local ones have scholarships, so you might have a better shot at the local one. And then the local ones may say, the national ones may say, send all your local scholarship winners And then we select 2 or 3 out of those, right, to give a bigger scholarship from the national level. So that's also a lot of times we don't talk about becoming part of a national organization that's in your industry and seeking some of their scholarships. Plus, they got free resources too.
And good networking.
And good networking.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the final one would be athletic scholarships,
Yes.
right? Or music or theater,
Yes.
things that you would do in terms of high school that you may be able to letter in, right? Like debate club or things like you went to college on a soccer scholarship.
Yep.
I went to college on a theater scholarship. I mean, I think that that's something that we think about as well. And again, some schools, those are stackable with your academics. Some they're not. So that all goes into really determining the right path in order for you to find the best opportunity and the lowest cost out of pocket to you.
Yeah.
So I think what we've really talked about a lot today is there's a lot of ways to pay for school, right? There's federal loans, there's federal grants, there's private student loans, there's scholarships, there's cash,
State grants.
there's gold,
There's-
whatever you have, right? Because it is expensive to go to college, but there's a lot of opportunities to receive funding to help you, some that you don't even have to pay back. And so one of the great things about being a Give Back Scholar is that we can help you kind of chart those paths. We can look with you about, look at a few different college options, look at those financial aid packages with you and determine your best option, your best fit, because it makes a big difference to you, especially after you graduate. You don't want to be saddled with huge loans that are going to be difficult to pay back as you're navigating adulthood.
Yeah.
So drop it in the comments. Tell us, what you think about this. Tell us your experiences with filling out the new FAFSA. Let us know what you think because we'd love to hear more from you, obviously. Thank you for all of your input on the last several episodes. But if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
One final question from the chat.
Yeah. Oh. We have one quick question from Miguel in New York. Do I fill out the FAFSA every year to continue to receive federal financial aid?
You do.
Yes.
Every year, fresh high school senior year into your college senior year, you will fill out your FAFSA application.
Good thing is
Every
you
year.
renew it.
You renew it,
after you
yes.
do it the first time. So it is quicker,
It is.
but you must do it.
And you should have a process,
Yes.
right? So maybe a separate email just for college, right? So because all that information coming to the email, so you got to respond. Make folders inside your email so you can put this for FAFSA, this for the state, this for college, the college. Also, what's the deadlines, right? Make sure you get the paperwork in. But a lot of it is just staying on top of it. So in December 1st, if it opens up this year, start the process, right? The earlier you start the process, again, if issues come up,
Right.
you got months ahead of the time to work with financial aid office to smooth that out.
And some schools, for their own institutional dollars, they may have their own institutional
Absolutely.
deadline. So, for example, if the FAFSA opens December 1st, let's say this year, a school may say, you know what, by March 1st, if you don't have all your stuff in, you don't qualify for our institutional dollars.
Right.
So, again, staying on top of those deadlines, knowing that each school is going to be different, each state's going to be different. So, again, just, being aware of those deadlines is important.
Any final thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot today.
Well, good.
Our coaches at Give Something Back are here as a resource to help guide you through your college journey. To contact us with any questions you might have or to apply to a Give Something Back program, go to giveback.ngo and fill out the form at the bottom of our homepage. Additionally, you could DM us through Instagram or through Facebook, or you could email us at info@giveback.ngo. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you next time.